Hey, welcome everybody to Behind the Bar. Derek and I are rejoining you. We had been away for a couple of weeks after we covered the Diddy trial in great detail for the 8 weeks of that trial.
What a trial. Yeah.
And now we're coming back to you this week, or today at least. We're going to be talking to you about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and what's going on there. Our goal is to come back to you semi-regularly with our take, our sort of common man, every man take on the biggest news stories. Where I guess what we say where law and celebrity meet.
That's right. We loiter at the corner of where law and celebrity meet. And obviously the Diddy trial was this huge event. It was 8 weeks. We did constant coverage. Some things don't always arise in that way. But one thing that has been in the news steadily for the last few weeks is Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump.
Derek, talk about how we got here. So what we're going to try to do here, just the conceit of this whole thing is we're going to try and sort of break it down, really common sense. We're not taking sides. We're not giving you our opinions on things. What we really want to do is give you as factual information as we possibly can. Derek and I are both lawyers to the extent it helps. I don't know, maybe it hurts, but we'll give it to you. So talk to us about how did we get here? How is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein, who's been mired in scandal for 20 years, and
Who's been dead for 5 years.
Right, he's been dead for 5 years, 6 years, going on 6 years almost. And then Donald Trump, who's been, the president of the United States the second time through for an aggregate 5 years, but has been sort of the most famous person in America for 10. Like, how did we get here that the confluence of these two people is now sort of consuming news?
Yeah, so let's take a few steps back in order to put this whole thing in context. Donald Trump, when he ran for the presidency, when he ran to be reelected in 2024, one of the things he centered his campaign on was unearthing old files of conspiracies. And I think the reason he did this is because there is a part of the Republican MAGA movement that is, for lack of a better word, conspiracy minded. There are people who indulge in these sort of things like QAnon, Pizzagate. Well, there's a certain faction that is into that stuff.
And Trump built
caters to it.
The first part of a large part of his first campaign on the conspiracy that Barack Obama was not born in this country, the whole long form, short form birth certificate. And he traded in the conspiracy arts, I guess, and he built a coalition around him that sort of was like-minded.
Yeah, at a minimum, he caters to that faction. He's also sort of created it in some ways earlier on when he talked about Barack Obama not being an American and things of that nature earlier on. But in doing so, he said, look, if you elect me, I'm going to, because I'm the anti-establishment guy, I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to release all the files. The American people deserve to know about all these conspiracies that you've heard about over time. One of them, he said, was the JFK files. One was Martin Luther King files. And the third was the Epstein files. Now, on JFK and Martin Luther King, he's released those files. I don't think people are that interested in them, but he did release them.
So he lived up to his word during this first few days in office, first 100 days or so in office. He released the JFK files. There wasn't much there, but he released them. And by the way, good for him. I'm kind of happy he did, right?
Same. I do think the American people deserve to know, everything there is to know about the assassination of JFK. Right. Why not at this point?
And then Martin Luther King. Now, that was a little bit more controversial because Martin Luther King's family objected to the disclosure of this information. They're all still alive, his kids and whatnot. They objected to it. He overrode their objections, and he released those files as well. Again, not a lot there, but at least we have it all.
That's right. And this pleased his constituents because he made the promise and he delivered on it. So the third prong of this, I'm going to release files, was the Epstein files. And in this instance, he didn't release everything.
Right.
And this is causing a lot of consternation. Also around this time, so he releases a memo through his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, which says a summary of what the Epstein files contain, but doesn't contain the actual Epstein files. She also spoke about having a list on her desk. People went crazy. Is that the Epstein list?
A list of names, apparently the list of names of people who visited the island who are otherwise associated with Epstein. She says, I have this list.
Yes, and people expected to see that list upon the release of the files. That was not released. What was released was a summary memo. I believe it was 3 to 4 pages describing that he
gave you nothing.
It gave you nothing. It just said he committed suicide. Here's some video. They gave an extended video that was missing a minute.
Yes.
Conspicuously, people noticed. And they said, look, you can see the ingress and egress of security guards. You can see Jeffrey Epstein go in, and Jeffrey Epstein obviously committed suicide. There was no foul play here. He was not killed in prison. That was one of the big questions in people's minds. And they said, look, he committed suicide.
Right.
That's what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. Let's move on. People did not move on. This also happened around the same time as Elon Musk left his position at Doge, went back into the private sector, and it was a messy breakup, right, Jason? You remember this.
So he turns his guns directly on Donald Trump. Donald Trump went after Elon Musk, saying he was going to specifically target him, target Tesla.
All over the big, beautiful bill and their difference of opinion over it.
Elon Musk says you wouldn't have been elected, but for me. Donald Trump does not take that kind of thing lying down. He fires back. Elon Musk tweets, the reason that the Jeffrey Epstein files isn't it conspicuous? The Jeffrey Epstein files haven't been released. I wonder why that is.
And this caused an absolute firestorm.
Firestorm, which Donald Trump is still living with today.
That's right. And Donald Trump has had scandals before. He has had attacks from the left countless times. He's been prosecuted. He has been charged and convicted of very, very serious crimes. There's been numerous ways that people thought, well, this will surely take him down. This will be the end of Trumpism, and none of it has stuck. And
he was convicted on 36 felonies. And not a thing happened.
And assumed the presidency.
Right,
and won by a larger margin than his first election.
Yes.
So everyone said this is surely not going to sort of derail what Trump is able to achieve in his second administration. He's had tariffs. He's had all sorts of things. The Epstein files, for the first time, has caused this internal fracture within MAGA because there's a sect of MAGA people who aren't satisfied without the Epstein files. And Trump has been unable, I would say, to change the conversation in his usual ways. He's tried distracting. He's saying, hey, we should rename the Washington Commanders back into the Washington Redskins. He's tried all his usual tactics, and yet the narrative persists.
Accusing Barack Obama and Joe Biden of these horrible crimes, and they've landed as a little bit of desperation, unlike his typical thing, which distracted the media for long enough for him to sort of squirrel away from the trouble he's gotten into. It's only sort of refocused people on it. People are pointing out this sort of wag the dog aspect of what he's doing and saying, hold on for a second. You're just looking to detract from the allegations. There's a really basic question that can be asked. He knows what's in those files. He has access to what he asked.
He's the president.
Pam Bondi, his attorney general, who is very loyal to him, has access to them, and so presumably he's seen them.
There's no level of clearance beyond the president. He's allowed to see everything.
There is something in those files that he does not want us to see. That's the only plausible explanation. Right?
Yes, and to your point, people aren't satisfied. It's not fringe, people on Twitter who aren't satisfied. It's real loud voices. People like the Joe Rogans and the Theo Vaughns. Yes. These are people who he depended on to get elected. He went on their podcasts and he catered to that sort of their mindset and their fan base, and their fan base is not satisfied, and they're not calling off the dogs.
Let's talk about those people, Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan. They are not hardcore MAGA files. They are centrists who have pulled who could otherwise go left or go center for a Democrat, but these are Clinton Democrats, right? Or Clinton Republicans, I guess. But in the election in 2024, especially, they pulled a lot of those centrist people into Trump's corner.
Yes.
These were people that, a lot of voters followed these guys into that camp.
Because they're sort of anti-establishment, and he positioned himself as, I'm not part of Washington, I'm there to do things differently, and they like that message.
But it's not just Theo Vaughn, it's also Marjorie Taylor Greene is very much opposed to the president, very outspoken. This is as hardcore a MAGA acolyte as there possibly is, and she is criticizing outwardly the president of the United States, Donald Trump, for his conduct with respect to not releasing these files.
And it's put Trump in this interesting position where he's desperately flailing. You can see right after all of this stuff didn't go away, you remember he had the outburst while Pam Bondi was answering questions where he said, what's all this Epstein stuff? Let's stop talking about Epstein. Why do we keep bringing up Epstein? Let's move on to other issues. He then went on a sort of a flurry of social media on Truth Social, where he posted 33 times on the Sunday after this all happened, including a burst of 20 posts in a 2-hour span where he was raising other issues. He was demanding the thing about the Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians reverting to their old names, posting AI-generated videos of Obama being arrested at the White House to the song YMCA, posting stunt videos of a woman catching a cobra with her bare hands. He's he's flailing around in a sort of desperate manner, and usually he has such a good playbook. You know, he knows how to manage these issues, call out the fake news, and move on and convince everyone that this is just an attack from the left, ignore it, and let's move on with our mission. He's not able to do it.
Yeah. So let's talk about
What's going
the
on?
relationship here. To answer that last question, I don't know what's going on. All I can do is respond with the same question we keep asking, which is what is in those files he doesn't want us to see. Here's what we know about their relationship. Look, they were friends, and there's nothing wrong with being friends. We all have friends that if we were to peel back the curtain a little bit, we would be alarmed to be friends with those people. I'm sure, Derek. I'm looking at you.
I know you're alarmed already. You'd like to distance yourself from me right now.
So there are. But
people who you grow apart from, people who you don't know everything about them, and you learn it and you move away.
And look, Donald Trump has his own sort of sexual picadillos, right? He's not a chaste person. We know that. He's had multiple affairs while married. Let's be honest, he was with Stormy Daniels, all that stuff. But
I mean, Marla Maples, that whole saga with Ivana Trump. He's never run away from that. He cheated on Ivana and he married Marla.
And he and Bill Clinton are very much cut from the same cloth in that respect, right? We also know that Jeffrey Epstein was this person who committed the most horrific acts of child abuse, molestation, rape of girls on Epstein Island and probably elsewhere, probably in New York over the years as well. We have Ghislaine Maxwell, who testified under oath about a lot of this stuff.
And has been convicted and is serving a sentence as we speak.
We also know that Trump and Epstein were good friends during all of this time. There's no evidence at all to suggest that Donald Trump ever committed an illegal act. But people draw inferences they're going to draw.
That's right. And there are videos of him in 1999 Victoria's Secret show. There's 1997 boxing match footage. Trump has not said these are AI generated. He's not said these are faked by the media. He has acknowledged as much as he has to that there was a friendship. There's just too much evidence that he had an association of what level of depth, maybe a little bit unknown, but they had a friendship.
So there are a couple of points that get a little creepier that maybe suggest that Donald Trump was at least aware of some of what he was engaged in. First, he made that offhand comment that he and Epstein shared something in common. They both like girls. He said the younger the better. He didn't mean that to mean underage. He really didn't. He was just suggesting they both, they were in maybe their 50s at the time. He was merely suggesting we like younger women. He wasn't saying girls. I honestly
put those kind of comments into the category of like
we're now bro talk.
We're looking at them with hindsight of who Jeffrey Epstein is, but he made an offhand comment. He wasn't trying to incriminate himself and Jeffrey Epstein when he made the offhand comment that they like younger women. And by the way, a lot of men would say in their 40s that they like women in their 20s and 30s. That's a very common thing. So I don't put much.
But then the Wall Street Journal reports on this birthday card that Donald Trump allegedly wrote to Jeffrey Epstein for Epstein's 50th birthday. Donald Trump has said it doesn't exist. He didn't get it. I give very little credence to that. I do not know. I think that is totally true that he wrote it. I just think that Donald Trump is going to deny things like that. But that birthday card apparently has the words, "Happy birthday," he's talking to Jeffrey Epstein, "and may every day be another wonderful secret." And then he creates a doodle there that shows a naked, bare-breasted woman, and his signature apparently it looks like pubic hair on the girl.
Right.
He says, "I don't even doodle."
He has run from this. He told us, TMZ, "I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my words." Now, I want to give him his fair due. He said, "I don't draw pictures of women." First, he said, I didn't write a picture in my life. Now, that has been...
I never wrote a picture in my life. Putting aside the language gaffe.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Because there have been several charitable events where they solicit drawings from celebrities. Trump has submitted many of them over the years.
Quite good, actually.
And they're actually quite good. They're these doodles of cityscapes, of the New York skyline and so forth with his signature, and he's submitted them for charitable purposes.
So he says that I never wrote a picture. I never drew a picture in my life. And he immediately realizes that's not quite right. So he tries to correct himself.
Right. So he corrects it and says, "I don't draw pictures of women." And to his credit, I don't know of any other doodles of women. So we have to give it its due. Maybe it is a fabrication. But he says it's just not his style. This one is troubling, and the fact that he's trying to run from this one in ways that he's not saying he never knew Jeffrey Epstein is because of that comment. It's not really the doodle. To me, it's the comment. The comment of may every day be another wonderful secret. That's sort of beyond creepy. That's different than saying I like young women. That's saying may every day bring another illicit act.
Right.
See, wonderful secret to me sounds sketchier than just saying both of us like young women.
And then there was another woman in 1996. She was a victim of Epstein's. She and her younger sister were victim of Epstein's, and she described an encounter with Donald Trump. She never said that Trump engaged in any improper conduct with her, but she said the meeting with Trump happened to be in Epstein's, I believe, his apartment, his hotel room, felt very creepy to her, that Trump was talking to her, flirting with her, and that Epstein came along and said, Donald, that one is not here for you.
Right.
And then Trump left the room. And again, no allegation of impropriety. The young woman found it very creepy, and then Epstein proceeds to both abuse her and her little sister.
Right.
So Trump, that's another one where Trump's like on the fringes of this illegal activity. If you marry that up with Trump making the comment about we both like younger women, you're almost to the point of, boy, Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein was a full creeper.
Has he commented on the veracity of that one?
No,
Because-
that's on tape. I mean, I don't think there's any allegation that that's untrue.
Right.
I think his basic point is, we
I'm not responsible for the bad acts
Melania
of other
is
people.
what, 25 years
Right.
younger than Donald,
Right.
20 years younger than Donald. I mean,
Right.
25 years, maybe 30 years younger than Donald. I should know that, but I don't. Much younger than Donald. He likes younger women.
Right.
There's no question about that.
All of his wives have been younger.
Yes, I
mean,
think that's what he's saying, and we both like him younger. But now, in the context of knowing what Epstein meant by younger,
yes,
it's hard to just swallow that.
Yeah, things look a lot worse in the context that we currently live in. Now, I do want to give him his fair due about their falling out. What do we know about Donald Trump? And this is the curiosity to me. He was not friends with Jeffrey Epstein when Jeffrey Epstein started getting in trouble.
Right.
So Jeffrey Epstein in the early 2000s in Florida has this conviction for, you know, it is not as serious as what he was going to be tried for.
Allegations are of some molestation.
The allegations were awful, but the punishment wasn't very severe in the early 2000s, what he was going to face before he died.
Yeah.
So, but even before that, they had a falling out.
2004, right?
Around 2004. And
we've heard two different things. I heard a real estate deal gone bad where they were competing over the same piece of real estate and Epstein bought it out from under him.
That's right. There's another sort of anecdote, rumor on the internet that it was due to Jeffrey Epstein hitting on the daughter of one of the club's members, maybe that Mar-a-Lago club, hitting on one of the daughters, and that angering the father of that daughter, and Trump saying he's too creepy to have at my club. He's angering other members. They had a falling out over it. Regardless of the nature of the falling out, it happened early enough. I don't know why Trump is not leaning into saying, as soon as I found out that Jeffrey Epstein was an unsavory character, I distanced myself. Right. So don't bring me pictures of Marla Maples in 1993 wedding.
Here's why. All right, you be Donald Trump, I'll be the press.
Yes.
Say that line. Hey.
Yeah, hey, as soon as I found out Epstein was a creepo, I kicked him out of my club, and I haven't talked to the guy since.
So release the documents like you said you would.
Well, you know, there's...
Release the documents like you said you would.
You're right. This is the problem for Donald Trump, because even right now, he has said, I'm going to have Pam Bondi release parts of the grand jury testimony. He's still picking and
the judge said no to that.
The judge did say no to that.
Yeah.
Kind of an assist to Trump in some ways. But in any event, why is he not just opening up the treasure chest? Because when he picks and chooses, the message to his audience of conspiracy theorists out there is that what you're not telling us is the whole thing. So tell us the whole thing, or don't pick and choose, because I don't care what's in the stuff you picked out.
I want to finish my part with this. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't think that Donald Trump was sleeping with young women. I really don't. Yeah. I think he's gross in a lot of ways, and I think he has a lot of sex with a lot of different people. But I don't think this is it.
Right.
That said, the more he refuses to release these documents after promising to do so, I'm beginning to think maybe he did.
Yeah,
honestly, and I'm not sure that's fair, but I think maybe he did.
Yeah, he's backed into a corner, and there is an option to save himself, and he's not taking it.
Yes.
And that's what's curious, is because this is a guy who is a survivor. Politically, he survived being convicted, assumed the presidency. One thing about Donald Trump is he's a fighter, and he knows his way out of a scandal and has done it numerous times in his life, in the decades that we've known him as a public figure. Why is this one flummoxing him so much?
We're going to leave that question unanswered. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.